I have a degree in economics from the LSE. I can see the economic disaster happening. This is why I couldn't believe the referendum result. I just could not believe that the drip of 10 years, of 10 or more years of people saying, oh, it's all Europe's fault. And they'd been allowed to get away with it. And the media is responsible for a lot of that. My history with Europe goes way back to when I was 14, probably 13 or 14. I had a very good politics and economics teacher, and we did Europe. We did the reasons for joining what was then the common market. And that was the topic for the year, from all points of view, because you can teach everything around Europe. You can teach your maths around Europe, you can teach your history around Europe, you can teach your politics around Europe, and you can teach your languages around Europe, and art and culture. And I could walk in a full circle about 3 times, you know? And we're in danger of losing all of that. I had to support myself through my education because of the way the grant system changed under Maggie Thatcher. As part of her process of dumbing down education, the first thing she did was to slash grants for university students. She wanted us dumbed down so that she had a permanent Tory government, and she very nearly has got it. She's very nearly achieving that now. There's been a media spin on we're giving away our sovereignty. We don't want to be ruled by the Germans and the French. The idea that the EU is some kind of a country that we're being asked to join with, and we're not. Europe, the EU is not a country. It's a political, economic, and it's a collection of political, economic and social institutions. That's what the EU is. All the countries within that are sovereign. You can't lose your sovereignty unless, and I'm being very simplistic here, we would lose our sovereignty here if we were invaded by another country and the Queen and the royal family were deposed. That's how we lose our sovereignty, because that's what sovereignty means. But to try and get that across these days is hard work. I come from a very hard leave area. The harder leavers are people who, they have swallowed the myth that somehow little England is exceptional and doesn't have to come into the 21st century. They're looking back at some kind of romantic past that I know never existed, but somehow they've there's a proper word for this, internalised. They have internalised that myth. And as any good psychologist or counsellor will tell you, trying to disentangle or reframe an internalised myth is very difficult. I should point out that in the course of my life I've also trained as a psychotherapist. The referendum was 2016. I'd spent 2 weeks hiding under a duvet going, oh, what have they done, kind of stuff. And I got in touch with somebody I knew from another Facebook group, and her response was just be visible. And she gave me a link to a group of people who were doing slightly dangerous things like hanging flags from motorway bridges. I was doing that up until I really became part of, active with SODEM, which was back end of last year. But I'm also a member of a group called Devon for Europe. We are a community. We all come from a wide, disparate set of backgrounds, from the very highest in British society to the very lowest. It was a lot more fun back end of last summer. You turn up in shorts, t-shirt, you got a good tan. Everybody was enjoying themselves. You had good conversations with people on the street. You were able to have conversations with people on the street, you know, proper discourse, proper, well, why do you want to be in Europe? And then you could go and people would come up and say, no, we don't like Europe. And you could say, well, why don't you like it? What is it? What's the issue for you? It's become a lot harder over this winter since the arrival of the right wing. Well, it certainly cost me a relationship. Until recently, it had cost me contact with my family, which I'm very pleased to say has been regained. It causes me a bit of strife in the neighbourhood where I live. The upside is I have met some of the most wonderful people I have ever met. One man, one vote in a first past the post system or on a binary question is not democracy. And I could do an hour lecture on why it is not democracy straight out of the LSE political handbook. You know? If you want democracy in this country, then we are going to have to change the whole electoral system, from parish councils through district councils, through county councils, through constituencies, all the way up to Parliament. I'm your average LSE, eternally optimistic idealist. I think there is no reason why human beings shouldn't evolve into a wonderful society where we actually all do get on and we all do learn how to cooperate and live in harmony with each other, not only here but also throughout the whole world. But that's my idealism.